In the same way that a monkey won't release one branch until they have a firm grasp on another one, a woman won't leave a relationship unless she has another one to go to. Do you think that branch swinging is an accurate concept?
Not actually. That's a bit strange, honestly, because when you say that a woman needs to have another person to go to, sounds like quite rude. Sounds like we always need to have someone to stay with. Otherwise, we will not be happy. And of course, that's not true.
Okay.
We need to be happy by ourselves.
Did you see the faces that she made when asked whether or not branch swinging was real? Whether or not women stay with a partner even if the relationship's not working until she's lined up the next one? You can tell by her facial expressions that the idea that some women might do this is just repulsive to her. She says that it's rude. She's offended because it paints women as though they're incapable of being by themselves, as though they're utterly dependent upon men. I understand, as a sweeping generalization, that could be offensive, but I'm sure that we can be more nuanced in our discussion on this. Branch swinging is absolutely a real phenomenon, but that doesn't mean that every single woman does it. To just string somebody along is an awful thing to do, and I can understand when hearing about this as a woman, you might feel a bit defensive because you don't want to think about the fact that members of your gender are doing this. When women act this way, it makes your whole gender look bad, so I can understand that women want to deny that such a phenomenon exists, but regardless, the facts speak for themselves. This does happen. Mate selection is an inherently selfish process. Nobody has children with another person as an act of charity. There's no woman out there saying, "Oh, he's so shy. Oh, he's so ugly. I just wanted to have children with him because I felt sorry for him." It does not happen like that. People are acting based on self-interest. And for all of our talk in modern society of civility and equality and fairness and justice, biologically, fundamentally, we're selfish. Men are attracted to young, fertile, beautiful women, and women are driven by hypergamy, the instinct to find the highest value mate that they can. I'm not saying that one gender is more selfish than the other. I'm not even just talking about humans. I'm saying for all species across the planet, biologically, the desire to mate is selfish. That's what we are. It doesn't really matter what we say. What matters is what we do, and our actions speak for themselves. We are always looking to get the best deal for ourselves possible. We asked about this later in the interview, if women ever break up to trade up, swapping one partner for another because they think that they can get a better deal. And when phrased this way, we got a very different response from her.
Like, for example, they might think, oh, this person's more attractive, or this guy's got more money, or whatever.
This happens quite a lot.
Do women ever break up to trade up? So, like, for example, leaving their current partner in favor of a higher status guy who might show an interest in her?
Not just women. Everyone can do this. Not just women.
You see, she thinks that it's true, but she doesn't think that it's exclusive to women. I disagree. Now, there may be instances where men do break up with a woman when a better option presents itself, a younger, more beautiful girl, but fundamentally, branch swinging is a female behavior, and I'm going to use this video to explain the results of a scientific study which demonstrates this. The study is called Loving and Leaving: Sex Differences in Romantic Attachments. It's an older study, and in this research, they tracked the progress of couples who broke up, specifically how they felt about their ex-partners. It's really quite fascinating to see how different men and women are as they respond to breakups. Now I'm going to run through the findings of this study and demonstrate to you scientifically why branch swinging is primarily a female behavior. From the outset, the researchers looked at the data and recognized that this myth that we have that men are the practical ones and women are these hopeless romantic idealists is not backed up by reality. It doesn't apply to relationships. Let me read directly from the study. In spite of our prevailing stereotypes about romantic women or women out to catch a man, there is converging evidence that men tend to fall in love more readily than women do. Men have consistently found to have higher scores than women on measures of romanticism. And another part of the study. Surprisingly, in light of the prevailing stereotype of romantic women, men rated the desire to fall in love as a significantly more important reason for entering the relationship than did women. This isn't surprising because we know from studying human evolution that women have had to be more practical when it comes to relationships. Throughout the history of human evolution, love and partnering up wasn't about romantic candlelit dinners or poetry. It was about survival. Women needed a man who had good genes, who could father healthy children, who could protect her from danger. We really shouldn't be surprised that branch swinging is a female behavior because it's really the ultimate expression of self-preservation and survival. You don't want to leave the protection of one relationship until you've guaranteed the protection of a new one. While men might occasionally dump a woman for somebody younger and hotter, this female branch swinging is really not the same thing. That's because men are a lot more self-sufficient when it comes to survival, but women really were dependent on men, not just for their own safety, but for the safety of their children. Women depended upon their relationships in order to live. And so, while for men, they might have the luxury of viewing relationships as a romantic exercise, and sometimes that might even be true for women. But, fundamentally, when the chips are down at their core, for women, relationships are about survival. That is the instinct that evolution has gifted us. And so when it comes down to it, women are going to be guided by self-interest. And you can see that branch swinging is just fundamentally the most practical choice. And so if branch swinging was real, what we would expect to see is that women are more inclined than men in relationships to be seeking out alternatives. They would be more likely to be looking for other men. They'd always have an eye out for other options. And that is exactly what the data shows us. Reading directly from the study, apparently related to women's ability to give up love more readily than men do is the fact that women tended to see the breakup coming sooner than men did. There was an overall tendency for women to report that the breakup was more gradual as opposed to abrupt than their boyfriends reported. To women, they experience the breakup as being more gradual because they've been thinking about it for a long time. They've been scoping out the alternatives, they've been thinking about their options. For the man, the breakup appeared to be abrupt because he wasn't looking at other options, he was completely invested in the relationship. It didn't even occur to him to look for alternatives, and he certainly wasn't aware that that's what she was doing. Now, you could say that all of this really proves is that men are more clueless, less able to pick up on the subtle cues that the woman's giving off. Maybe the signs were there, he just wasn't picking up on them. There is some truth to that, but there's more to the story. Here's what the study says. Women tended to be more sensitive than men to problem areas in their relationship, and that women were more likely than men to compare the relationship to alternatives, whether hypothetical or actual. You see, while men are just bumbling along, enjoying the relationship, women don't have that luxury. A woman has a very limited time window when she's still young and beautiful and able to attract a high-value mate. She needs to be practical, methodical even, in evaluating her options and making sure that she's getting the best possible deal that she can. Now, if you don't believe me that women have practical considerations at the forefront of their mind, not romantic ones, when considering whether or not to proceed with a relationship, have a look at this list of the reasons why women would end a relationship. Reading directly from the study, we found that women indicated more problems had contributed to the breakup than men did. In particular, more women than men cited differences in interests, differences in intelligence, conflicting ideas about marriage, my desire for independence, and my interest in someone else as contributing factors. The only problem that men cited more frequently than women was living too far apart. So, we've established that women are more calculating when it comes to deciding whether or not to end a relationship. But if branch swinging is real, and women really are more practical in their relationship considerations than men are, then we would expect women to handle breakups a lot better than men do. And again, that's exactly what the science tells us. Reading from the study. First, a woman's love was a better predictor or barometer of the continuation of the relationship than a man's love. And second, as a prelude to and/or as a consequence of the ending of a close relationship, women's love tended to diminish more than men's. Both of these conclusions seem consistent with the proposition that women tend to fall out of love more readily than men do. I've looked at other studies and they all back up this research. Women take breakups harder in the beginning, probably because they're more readily able to access their emotions. But on the whole, in the long term, women recover from breakups much more quickly and thoroughly than men do. Of course they do. That's what their evolutionary instincts have guided them to do, because relationships are practical. Yes, it's sad, but we need to move on. What's the next thing? Who's the next man? It's time to get on with it. Have a look at this graph. you can see that after the breakup, men retain stronger feelings of love for their exes than women do. After a woman has moved on to another man, her feelings for her previous partner vanish much more quickly. It's the man who's left reeling. Again, reading from the study, these data suggest that men were hit harder by the breakup than were women. In the wake of the breakup, men tended to report that they felt more depressed, more lonely, less happy, and less free than did their former girlfriends. Even women who had been more involved in the relationship than their boyfriends tended to feel greater equanimity after the breakup than did men in comparable situations. And lastly, the notion that the young adult male is by definition a heartless sexual predator does not bear examination. In point of fact, some of the most acute cases of depression I have ever had to deal with occurred in attempting to help young men with their betrayal by a young woman in whom they had invested a great deal, and who had, as the relationship developed, exploited them rather ruthlessly. It continues to fascinate me that our society perpetuates this myth that men are these cold, unfeeling creatures who just use women up, who aren't interested in commitment, when all of that flies in the face of the established science. It's not just astonishing, it actually causes damage, because whenever you have a map that doesn't accurately represent the landscape, the territory, there's going to be casualties. Right now, the cost is borne by the millions of men who don't understand the evolutionary instincts that are guiding female behavior when it comes to dating and relationships. They think that women are these sweet, pure, angelic, romantic creatures, and they proceed based on that belief. Nobody told them that women are practical and calculating when it comes to their relationships. They're completely unprepared. They're going in blind because nobody actually took the time to say to them, hey, you know, women are guided by self-interest. When it comes to mating, they're as selfish as anybody. And I'm not judging women. If you think that this video is about judging women, about hating on women, then you completely missed the point. I'm just explaining the biology. I'm not shaming women when it comes to dating. Of course they're selfish. I'm selfish when it comes to dating. If I was a woman, I'd probably be making the same choices. But it really bothers me that we continue to deny this, that we continue to push this myth that men are these selfish, immoral creatures using women up, and that women are completely beyond that. That kind of map to give to young men when they're trying to navigate the dating market is dangerous. It's harmful. It's causing all kinds of depression. I'm getting emotional, but I deal with this. I have private consultations with guys who were completely unprepared for what they walked into, and it sucks. Branch swinging is real. It's a completely immoral behavior, and it's something only a low-quality woman would do. But the instinct is very, very real. And most importantly, it's far more common than we realize. If you think back to the reaction that the woman gave at the beginning of the video when she said that the suggestion that branch swinging could be real was rude. No, it's not rude, it's reality. And until we stop collectively pedestalizing women and take a more mature, reality-based approach, something that actually reflects biology, evolutionary psychology, then more and more innocent men are going to continue to get hurt. Is it ethical to sleep with a married woman? That's the topic of my latest video. In this video, I talk about the ethical obligations that you have when a woman who's already got a partner is coming onto you. Your obligations to her, your obligations to her partner, and your obligations to yourself. I talk about the one rule of morality that you have to follow in this situation, as well as explaining the impact that it's going to have on you if you follow through in such a circumstance. I also explain why so many young men are confused by a topic like this, because they're trying to balance their moral considerations with being real with themselves, of actually embracing what comes natural to their biology and their desires. For anybody who's confused on how to navigate the dating market, balancing your own interests with a desire to be a morally upstanding person, this is the video for you. For every single video that I post on YouTube, I post an additional bonus video on my Patreon page. That means that right now you're only seeing half of the total content that I create. If you'd like to see the other half, it's just $5 a month, and it's a fantastic way to support the channel. You get instant access to a huge number of exclusive videos. I really hope to see you over there.